2 straight 40s, 8 straight 30s. Is there anybody stopping Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? Lions down another ACL and a broken jaw with the Eagles, Packers, and Bucks coming. And the scourge of the goal line drop. 2 more. A play that lives in infamy, yet somehow is still happening. Let's go around the horn.
Keep the ball.
Deshaun Jackson Webb.
They're not showboating. It's not their fault.
Bills 48, Lions 42, scoreagami. Buffalo on a spurtagami where every game they play is in the 40s. What the Bills did in Detroit to smack the Lions in the mouth, give Detroit their first loss in 12 games. They had Dan Campbell onside kicking early. And offensively, what Josh Allen is doing this season has some writing the MVP in ink right now. I'm not sure I would be doing that, but many are. Decimation for the Lions growing with injuries again. Aleem McNeil, torn ACL. Carlton Davis, broken jaw. David Montgomery, knee ligaments. All going down this week, adding to a mash unit list. So Bill Plaschke, around the horn to you. Was this outcome more about Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, or the Detroit Lions injuries?
MVP. Give Allen the award. He's already won. He's clinched it yesterday.
Clinched it.
10 touchdowns in 2 weeks. He's unstoppable. I mean, Campbell's onside kicking with 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. Are you kidding me? That's because they knew they couldn't stop him. The Bills are the first team in NFL history to snap 2 9-game winning streaks in the same season. They beat the Chiefs and the Lions.
Is that right?
They tied a record with 8 straight 30-point games. This team is unstoppable. And then the Lions are injured.
It's almost like you're telling us it's over, Bill Plaschke. The MVP's over. The AFC's over.
Not LA.
Harry Lyles Jr. on anything Bill said or what you saw from the Bills Lions?
I'm with Bill Plaschke on this. I think that Josh Allen has not only cemented the MVP, I think we are now talking about him possibly being the unanimous MVP, which we have only seen a handful of times in NFL history. The last 2 weeks, he has 854 total yards, 10 total touchdowns, and a 93 QBR. In one of those games, which was yesterday, was out-offensing the offensive team in the NFL. So I think the Josh Allen and the Bills are well on their way to a deep playoff run. I think, obviously, what's happening in Kansas City might affect that as well. But I think the other thing that we cannot avoid in this conversation is so far the defensive injuries that the Lions have had all season have not been an issue. They had 3 more yesterday. That brings them to 16 total. I think that is something that you can now no longer just ignore with this Detroit Lions team. I think that they are also in trouble.
There's a lot there to unpack. Unanimous MVP. I wasn't expecting to hear that. Justin Tinsley, around the horn to you.
I think Lamar Jackson would have something to say about that MVP conversation, but that's another conversation for another time. Look, Josh Allen is playing lights out. The best season of his career, right? The offensive line is playing lights out as well. They haven't given up a sack in a month. So I get why the stock is so high on Buffalo. Trust me, I get it. But Bills Mafia, please listen to me when I say this, and please don't powerbomb me through a table. Here's my cause for concern. Bill mentioned that they scored 30 points in 8 straight games. That ties them, that brings them into conversation with the 2000 Rams, the 2007 and 2010 Patriots, and the 2013 Broncos. What's the commonality in all this, Tony? None of them won the Super Bowl. Not zero, zilch. And so, and here's another cause for concern. Yes, the offense is playing great, but that secondary over the last 2 weeks has given up 814 yards, 7 touchdowns, and an average completion percentage of 71%. So look, they are dominant. They are truly dominant, but they're not invincible.
Frank Isola, around the horn to you.
Just think about how dominant Josh Allen could be against Buffalo's defense. Buffalo has to stop somebody. If you have aspirations of winning a Super Bowl, it's not just about having the great quarterback and the offense. Your defense has to do better. I understand yesterday was just about managing the game out, and against the Rams, they really struggled. They couldn't stop them. That's an issue. But as far as Josh Allen is concerned, he was toying with the Detroit Lions. Right now, he has the game completely figured out. He's like a more athletic John Elway, almost like a hybrid John Elway, Randall Cunningham. He is so talented, so good, so dominant, and I feel badly for Detroit because it looks like for them, their defense isn't going to hold up. It's going to be really tough for them to win multiple playoff games when your defense.
All right, so you think it's arrived at that point with the Lions already? I mean, they had won 11 straight games until yesterday afternoon, and now it's just like the injuries have piled up.
Might not have home field.
On the onside kick, the early one, early in the fourth quarter, Frank Isola, did you flag that as a sign of I don't believe in this team right now, or just respect for Buffalo's offense at that moment?
Dan Campbell knows what he's doing. He knew that he had to stop them twice, which I think he felt was impossible. So he said, if I can recover the kick right here, I only have to eventually stop them one time. He was essentially waving the white flag. It also shows you the flaw in the system, alerting the other team, hey, guys, here comes the onside kick so we could somehow stay in the game. They got to change the rule.
I'm with you
ultimately.
there.
I don't have a problem with what
I don't know how we got to this point where onside kicks should be welcomed in the game. We should want the element of surprise.
Right.
We should want games to be up in the air as long as possible.
Right.
Detroit's loss and injuries coupled with Philadelphia's win. Let's go forward, and maybe you're recalibrating the NFC playoff picture. Eagles 27, Steelers 13. So that's what you wanted to see. Jalen Hurts said it after the game. Had a little pep in his step with the targets and touchdown and dancing. Hurts and Brown. After the week where their connection and their off-field relationship was somewhat questioned. Frank, what did the Eagles prove to you?
They proved to me that right now they're the best team in the NFC. How about the fact that Pittsburgh got the ball in the second half 2 times? You cannot win if you only have 2 possessions in the second half of a game. I like this team. It's kind of symbolic of Philadelphia. There's always a lot of drama going on. Who's getting along? The coach is fighting with fans. He's getting an argument with a defensive player. Jalen Hurts is always at the center of controversy. Yet all the guy does is win. His job is to go out there, manage a game, and get them wins. And that's what he does. And with that defense, that's the best team in the NFC.
All right, so that was all one afternoon. You went from thinking the Lions had the conference in lockdown to Philadelphia now being at the head of the line. Justin Tinsley, around the horn to you.
Yeah, because of Detroit's injuries, you have to say Philly is probably the top team in the conference right now, even though they're in a virtual tie. When you look at this team, they are game records on defense. They've only given up 15 touchdown passes all season, and they're first in the league in yards per game allowed. Obviously, the rushing game is great, and they have a dominant offensive line. As long as Jalen Hurts finds A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they will be just fine on offense. But here's why they won, and Frank alluded to it. Out of a 30-minute second half, the Philadelphia Eagles had the ball for 24 minutes and 10 seconds and then closed the game out on a 21-play, 88-yard drive to kill the clock. And that was not a fluke because that offense can do just that. They can beat you with big plays and they can suffocate you. So that's what I took away from the game yesterday.
Let me ask you a little bit more specifically than Harry Lyles. How did you hear Jalen Hurts say, so that's what you wanted to see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he feels good about what he did, but the reason we were on them about this last week is because it shouldn't take a premeditated and concerted effort for us to see this on a week-to-week basis. Like, you have one of the best number ones in the league and one of the most skilled wide receivers in your number 2 in Devontae Smith. There is a reason he is one of 5 players that has ever won the Heisman Trophy as a wide receiver. And I thought the effort was impressive. I will give them credit for that against this very good Steelers defense. A.J. Brown had 48 yards in the first quarter. That was more than he had all of last week against the Panthers. And then Jalen Hurts was 12 of 13 in the first half. That is literally, by completion percentage, the best half passing that he's had in his NFL career. So I would even go beyond them not just being the NFC favorites. I think this is the most balanced team in the NFL.
Ooh, let's let that settle in for a second, because correct me if I'm wrong, Harry Lyles Jr., I believe you said that about another team about a month ago.
Yes,
it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team they beat.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Funny how things change when we play the game.
Bill Plaschke, around the horn to you. Could the Eagles be the most complete team in the NFC and in football?
Well, I want to go back to Harry talking about the Steelers. You're a Steelers, Harry. 163 yards. That's the least ever under Mike Tomlin, at least in 25 years. 7 plays in the second half. Najee Harris was terrible. Russell Wilson was terrible. The Steelers are fraudulent. I mean, their offense is not there.
Fraudulent. One loss and fraudulent now, I'm hearing. Wow.
Well, it was a terrible loss. The terrible turnovers in the red zone. There was not a Mike Tomlin team, and I think they're not going to go far.
They play the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday, and then they're one of the teams playing 3 games in 11 days. The Kansas City defending 2-time Super Bowl champions, and then they play Cincinnati to finish out the season. They clinched a playoff spot yesterday, but that's a tough road to go when Bill Plaschke has turned on you, calling it over.
Yes.
You said that they're still a Mike Tomlin coach team. You said they weren't a Mike Tomlin coach team yesterday. They were. They didn't look like it. And injuries coupled with Philadelphia's win, and let's quadruple it with the performances we saw from the Green Bay Packers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC yesterday. Full unit wins. Green Bay dismantling the Seahawks in Seattle, and Tampa rolling the Chargers. Doubled them in yardage. Who looked more impressive, Harry Lyles Jr.?
Oh, I think it's the Green Bay Packers, and I've seen this movie before. They are getting hot at the right time. Jordan Love has 7 touchdowns and 0 picks over the last 4 games, and defensively is where this team made strides last year. They're doing it again. Jeff Hafley's got that unit popping. They had 7 sacks yesterday. All of them came with 4 men rushing the passer. That is something that if they wanted to actually make a concerted effort to sort of actually blitz and go get a guy, they could. But I think the return of Edgerrin Cooper really made it so they didn't have to do that yesterday. He even had an interception. One of the better young players on that football team. This receiving core is looking like they are coming back into their own. That is still a very young group, so I'm going with the Packers.
You know, when it comes to Green Bay and Tampa Bay last night, who looked more impressive?
One team you don't want to play in the playoffs is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They shredded the Chargers. They've got 4 games with 150 yards or more rushing. Rushing's always been their problem. Yeah. They can run the ball now. They can stop the run. Baker Mayfield's been unbelievable. They have, I think, the best offense in football in the last 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were against a tough Charger defense. The Chargers never get out tough under Harbaugh. This was the 3rd worst loss by a Harbaugh coach team in the NFL.
Frank, who was more impressive yesterday?
You know what? I think it was the Packers. But one thing about Tampa Bay, let's remember when Detroit was Detroit, Tampa Bay went in there and won. So they've won some impressive road games. But I look at Green Bay and all these, head coaches and quarterbacks, a lot of them get overrated. It seems like we don't rate Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur enough. Those guys do a terrific job. And with that defense, they'll be tough to beat. In a related story, Tony, former Green Bay quarterback Aaron Rodgers led the Jets on a game-winning drive. So
wait.
See,
we're not.
Oh,
Justin Tinsley, please, on Green Bay and Tampa Bay, and these teams getting hot at the right time. Please, who looked more impressive on Sunday?
I'm actually going to take Tampa because they are one step closer to a home playoff game. They can win this division. And so Bill already mentioned the run game, which is on point right now, but Baker Mayfield is playing lights out. He went 8 for 8, $143, and 3 touchdowns in the second half alone against a really good Chargers defense. So you got to give Baker and this team a lot of credit. And when you got Mike Evans on the outside, we
have seen them beat Detroit this year, as Frank alluded to earlier. Green Bay's 4 losses this year to the Lions twice and to the Vikings once, and their first game of the season to Philadelphia, the teams they're looking up at in the playoff picture. Taking a break right here. Buy or sell on the other side. The latest on Patrick Mahomes' injured ankle. Reportedly a high ankle sprain called mild. Right foot, same as last Super Bowl. Day to day, week to week is how it's being identified. Kansas City, 3 games in 11 days, as we know. Buffalo, an object in their rear view that is larger than it appears, as we know. So, Bill Plaschke, how should KC play this with Mahomes?
Play Carson Wentz against Houston on Saturday. If they win, keep Carson in there. If they lose, bring Mahomes back.
Okay, I see what you're saying. They still have 2 games ahead of Buffalo. It's really 1 because of the tiebreaker. But since one's in hand, Carson gets the start on Saturday. Lyles, how about you?
Yeah, I think you have to continue to rest him until that thing gets better. We saw him obviously tough it out and play on it last year during the postseason, including in the Super Bowl. But I think it's easier to sit here and say, yeah, tough it out for 1 or 2 games when the season and the championship are on the line than compared to right now when you're getting ready to play, like I said, 3 games in 11 days and going against teams with really good pass rushes.
Justin Tinsley, how do you play it with Mahomes?
Yeah, this injury kind of felt inevitable. He was pressured on 54% of his dropbacks yesterday. But if I'm the Chiefs, you sit him on Saturday, and then maybe he can play on Christmas. You give him a week and a half of rest. I think that's the best thing to do in the short term.
Frank Isola.
When was that video from? What year was it? Because it seems like every year we see him limping off the field, and then it ends with him lifting the trophy. So about not playing. Guys, it's the NFL. It's the league where injured players play. If Patrick Mahomes feels like he can be out there, he will be out there on Saturday, and he has every intention of playing those 3 games. I would actually be surprised if he's not out there.
Buy or sell 2, transfer portal mayhem. The biggest story in college football right now because Bowl game appearances are being renounced. We saw that with Marshall. And the playoff could be affected. News today, Penn State's backup quarterback, Bo Pribula, is transferring, so they are suddenly without QB2 going into the playoff. In a statement, he said it's about timing with the portal and that it puts players in an impossible position. Harry Lyles Jr., how big of a problem is the sport facing?
It's a problem, Tony, and one that, frankly, I don't know how you fix. Now, when it comes to Marshall, that exodus had to do with Charles Huff and Marshall not exactly having the best relationship, and so his contract expired, and he took the job at Southern Miss. So you're going to see a lot of players leave that Marshall team. As far as the Penn State backup quarterback is, yes, it is an impossible position. The reason that this transfer portal window still exists is because in college football, they are still beholden to that first word, college. As much as they want to treat this like the NFL, you're still beholden to semesters, whether we like it or not, and because of that, this window is going to exist, and I don't know how you get rid of it.
Justin Tinsley.
As of right now, the portal opens on the last day of the regular season. I think they need to wait until the actual bowl season is over because this is a problem they can't control. Did you know last year during the 2023-24 school year, over 2,700 scholarship players entered the portal? Tony, that's a quarter of all college football players, and it's only going to get worse until they do something about it.
Or it's only going to grow in number. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I believe the championship game is on the 20th of January this year, where a lot of schools have already started their second semester or their winter/spring semester. Frank, I sold it to you.
I don't know how you slow it down because of what Harry said. These kids want to be in school. The next school they go to, starting winter classes, guess what? It's a business. So this is what's going to happen when you start paying players. You have a transfer portal, and it's not just football. Go ask the men's and women's basketball coach. Go ask the men's and women's soccer coaches. This happens everywhere. Maybe you should be under a thing where you have to sign a contract where you're at the school for a full year. Maybe that would help.
Bill Plaschke.
I can't get past this Marshall thing. Come on, Marshall. You got a head coach. You got uniforms. You have a field. You have a locker room. Field a team. Get a group of guys together. It could be the greatest story of the bowl season. A scrappy group of underdogs get together a bunch of walk-ons. It'd be a great story. Why do you have to back out of the game? That's ridiculous.
Harry, for Penn State specifically, Pribula has played for them this season, right? I mean, he's gotten reps this year, and who knows how a game goes. Does this put them at a disadvantage?
Absolutely it does. But again, this is sort of the predicament that college football has put itself in because of the extended season. Now we're going into late January. These things are unavoidable. And I am certain if that young man could have stayed on Penn State's roster and then perhaps gotten into the portal, that he would have done that. But because of the way that this is mapped out, it makes it impossible not just for players, but for coaches as well, because the fact that some of these guys are still trying to deal with the portal while you're dealing with the early signing period, while still trying to deal with your bowl game or the playoffs, it makes it impossible for everybody involved.
He can do a lot of different things, kind of like a Taysom Hill on their offense. Frank, a last word.
He must have a deal. He probably has a deal already in place. Why?
Maybe anything's
now.
possible,
He knows where he's
but
going.
he also doesn't want to lose out on a
getting.
deal that could be in place. This is a window, but the window, as the window gets open wider, you lose out on opportunities. That's why he calls it an impossible position. I feel an impossible position here with Harry Lyles Jr. That was some good stuff.
Do you?
With Frank, I feel a very possible position. Frank, thank you.
My window closed. Closing.
Plaschke Tinsley, showdown next.
Monday night.
Travis Hunter's historic Heisman win. Second full-time defensive player ever. Fifth full-time wide receiver ever. First full-time offensive and defensive player ever. Closest vote, though, in 15 years. Ashton Jeanty was named on a higher percentage of total ballots. Hunter has 78% more first-place ballots. Jeanty told reporter BJ Rains, BNN Broncos Nation, and Jay Tuss, KTVB, kudos to Hunter, but he was the one who should have walked away with the award. To that you say what, Bill?
I wish Jeanty had been a better sport about it, but he should have won. I covered Barry Sanders in Stillwater 37 years ago, and it was the most unbelievable season I've ever seen. He's going to break that record, 37-0 record, and he's carrying his team to one loss to the national champions.
Yeah.
National champion in Oregon.
I hear you, Bill. He was the best running back in the country, but Travis Hunter was the best wide receiver and DB in the country. He's the first player since 1980 to have 1,000 yards and 3 defensive INTs in the season.
He did say kudos to Hunter, Bill. It wasn't like he was just throwing heat at Hunter, but in many, many years. Genty's all-time season wins him that award. We'll move on. 2 more cross-the-goal line fumbles yesterday in the NFL. Jordan Battle, this was a hand switch he was doing right at the goal line, but he lost it. Jonathan Taylor, this is a straight-out drop for Taylor. Look at the score. This would have put Indy up 2 scores in this game. The game they really need if they want to have any playoff hopes. He drops it a foot early, and then to compound their mistake, Indy went with a double pass that turned into a double pass pick 6, which you never see. So what a disaster. Whose disaster was worse, Justin?
It's got to be Jonathan Taylor, man. After that play, the Broncos went on a 24-0 run to close out the game and effectively end their season.
Plaschke.
The biggest disaster is the rule. It's a terrible rule. One of the worst rules in sports. That's a 100-yard penalty if the team
Wait, you don't think players should need to score a touchdown in order to score a touchdown? Is that what you're saying? No.
If you fumble through the end zone, you get the ball back at the 20.
Carry the ball through a goal.
It's a terrible rule. It's a terrible rule.
Kids, FaceTime.
So if you know anything about hotbeds of talent in football in this country, the 757, aka the Tidewater area in Virginia, is one of the biggest and the brightest. And today, news came out that 757 legend Michael Vick interviewed for the head coaching position at Norfolk State University. I hope he gets it. That would be huge for the area and huge for recruiting for a school that needs it.
Who else is from there? Justin Tinsley?
Hampton University, baby.